You know, one of the unknown difficulties of driving a vintage VW bus is trying to row through the gears while simultaneously holding a beverage. That's because there is no cup holder in a split-window VW bus, unless you make one. Hello again, fellow VW enthusiast. I'm your host, Joe, and this is the Wilson the VW Bus podcast. Wilson is my 1967 split-window, walk-through, homebrew, tin-top camper bus, and as we explore life's little adventures, I'll record some of them and make this podcast for you to hopefully all enjoy. I've been busy over the past few weeks building a tiny home for a friend of mine, so I haven't had any time to record the podcast. Again, I apologize. But I just finished the project yesterday, so here we are. Now, over the course of the past few years, Wilson and I have traveled around the great Garden State of New Jersey. And during these escapades, I have occasionally felt the need for a nice, cool beverage. Purchasing and consuming my favorite drink of choice has not been the problem, but holding on to it has absolutely been. You see, a stock vintage Volkswagen split-window bus doesn't come with a cup holder or any suitable place to hold a drink when you're on the move. Most of the time, I was trying to hold the drink in my lap between my legs, but that's neither practical, safe, nor comfortable. Last time I tried that method, my icy cold drink froze my crotch, and that's not an experience I'd like to have again. And if I spilled anything on my nice new Westy blue plaid seats, I would really quite be upset. So I've seen some aftermarket cup holders for VW buses online, and one particular style really suited me. It's a wireframe design that's secured to the dash through the slots in the dash grille. The only problem for me with the cup holders is that this style that's available online is too big. It has a basket that's part of the cup holder, and it's a dual cup holder, and that's just too big in my opinion, for my bus. So I've already designed and built a neat little iPad holder that hangs onto the same dash grills, and it's completely removable. I have it on sometimes I keep it in the back. That project was far more difficult to design and build, as it needed to not only secure and hold an iPad, but also provide access to the iPad power port and the iPad speaker. A cup holder's got to be an easier build, right? Well, I started by looking through my parts bin in the garage, and not only did I find some wire rod to make the cup holder frame, but I also found a brand new stainless steel cup holder with a built-in LED light that I believe I originally purchased for my son's 91 S10 Blazer project that we built for him when he was in high school. It was a cool little build, and the best part of this cup holder is that the LED light is blue, which matches Wilson's interior. So, where do we go from here? Well, I grabbed a pencil and a yellow pad to sketch up my idea, and then I took a thin piece of steel metal rod that I had and mocked up the first draft of where the cup needed to be on the dash, and then how long the hanger arm should be. I wanted the cup holder within reach of the driver's seat, obviously, but also not obstructing any switches or the shifter. Once I got the wireframe template close to where I wanted it, I then needed to bend up the steel rod around the stainless cup, and then weld on a few other pieces of rod to make the little arms to hang on to the dash. It was pretty simple, to be honest with you. I stopped by my friend John's garage up the road because he has a nice new tubing bender, and I thought it might make this job a snap. But after about 30 minutes or so, we concluded that his tubing bender wasn't going to work for the small radius of the cup holder. So I came back to the South Hill Customs garage to manually bend up the steel rod and weld it all together. Of course, my MIG welder started acting up and decided it didn't want to feed any welding wire through the tip of the welding gun. So I spent more time tuning up the welder than actually welding the 4 little weld tacks for this project. Next, I loaded up the airbrush with Wilson's pearl white paint and shot some paint on it so that the wireframe matched the bus interior. I then wired up the LED light to the same feed that I use for the amber fog lights, which is right next to where the cup holder lives, and made a quick little disconnect on the electrical connection so that it could be easily removed if I wanted to take it off. I even added a few little rubber grommets onto the cup holder so it wouldn't scratch the dash. Overall, I'm very happy with my custom cup holder, and when it isn't holding my nice cold drink of choice, it conveniently holds my glasses or cell phone or anything else just as easily. Just a few days after the cup holder project was complete, we had our town-wide garage sale. This once-a-year event has always provided me with some goodies in the past, and this year was no exception. Just a mere 4 blocks from my home, I found a large steamer trunk at a neighbor's front yard. And when I inquired about the price, I was told it was free. Oh yeah. So I brought it home and immediately began to strip it down. They told me that they used it for a pirate treasure chest a few years ago during a Halloween party, and it was just sitting in their garage getting dusty and covered with cobwebs ever since. And you know I can't resist a vintage wooden box for Wilson. All of the wood on this steamer trunk was in decent shape. However, there were a couple of the metal corner caps that were kind of rusty and sharp. So I took those off and welded on some scrap steel that I had laying around onto whatever was left of the little cap. And after grinding down the welded repairs and treating the metal with some rust encapsulator, and also treating all of the other metal on the steamer trunk with some matte polyurethane, I can't even find where I did the repairs now. Most importantly, no one is going to need a stitch or a tetanus shot if they touch the trunk. Next, I began using the portable steamer to remove as much of the interior patterned paper and fabric from inside the trunk, and then scrape the rest of the interior down before applying my matte polyurethane to both the interior and exterior surfaces over the next few days. There were still a few old stickers on the trunk sides, so I decided to apply that clear matte polyurethane over them and to try to keep them. After all, I wasn't restoring the trunk, just trying to kind of preserve it. And it still needed to look old. I stopped at the local hobby shop to get some leather strapping to recreate the side handles, which had disintegrated a long time ago, and then proceeded to guess at the correct length for these new handles. Once the handles were nailed onto the sides, I ran over to the local fabric store, found some suitable vintage material for the inside of the steamer trunk. I decided to go with a dark blue kind of classic pattern fabric. But I didn't want to adhere it directly to the trunk walls. I was going to make some panel inserts from cardboard. And then once they were sized for the trunk, I'd cover those panels with the fabric and glue them all together. It was looking great, and everything was fine, until I put the trunk out in the hot sun for just a few minutes with my new cloth-covered cardboard panels, and those cardboard panels began to warp and curve on me, so I had to decide to glue those cardboard panels to the interior steamer trunk walls and clamp them down for a day or two to make sure they stayed put. So far, so good. I now put my quilted blanket that my daughter made me for when I go camping with the bus, and my folding chairs, a leather jacket, any other little trinkets I had floating around loose in the bus. They're all in the trunk now. And the trunk hangs out in the cargo area of the bus when I'm driving. When I go to a show or a camp, the trunk makes for a nice seat outside the bus, or a table, or a countertop to cook on. It's a good-sized trunk. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 2.5 feet high and maybe 3 feet wide. It's a good-sized trunk. It's now the 7th trunk, or wooden box, that Wilson has. And now that I begin to think of it, I think I might have an issue with wooden boxes. I just liked it for Wilson. Well, by about this time, it's getting to be springtime, and the car shows and cruises are all getting started. You may not know this, but I'm also an avid horticulturist and gardener. My wife and I take pride in all the beautiful flowers and plants that we have here at our home, and I have previously talked to you about I occasionally grow some pumpkins for fall decorations and pumpkin pies. So I had a bunch of pumpkin seeds from the past few years in an envelope in my fridge, because that's where you store them. And I thought I would plant them in some starter cups outside now that the weather was warming up. Well, before I knew it, I had dozens of pumpkin plants ready to be planted in the garden, way more than I could ever grow here on my property. So I decided to take them with me to the shows in Wilson in the little starter containers and just give them away. I told all the kids that they should give them to their mom for Mother's Day, and after 2 or 3 trips and different shows, they were all distributed, and I hope that somebody gets a nice big pumpkin for Halloween. During one of my earlier cruise nights to the town of Metuchen, I did experience a little issue with Wilson, although I wouldn't consider it a breakdown. I was running low on fuel, so on my way to the Metuchen downtown cruise, I stopped at my regular gas station, and my crazy pump jockey, Sherman, overfilled the bus. I mean, he filled the gas right up to the top of the cap. Now, when I arrived at the show and parked on the street, a little bit of that gas spilled from the cap, from the tank, and onto the ground. It wasn't a lot of fuel. I mean, you could barely see it, just a little bit, but you could definitely smell the fuel. And more than a few people began, walking down the street and coming up to me and saying, "Oh, I think you're leaking gas. I think you're leaking fuel." I said, I tried my best to explain. It's okay. It's just a little overfull from the gas station I just left. I wanted to dispel everyone's concerns, so I stopped into the local pizzeria restaurant, which was, right where I was parked, and asked for a bucket of water to wash it all away. So I poured the water onto the ground under the bus, and I thought everything would be just fine, but the sight of all the wet pavement and the still lingering smell of fuel just made the issue worse. Now people thought it was a giant gas leak, and it was all water. So I even had one of the cars move away from me. I think he was afraid that he was going to catch his car on fire, but my friends at the show said not to worry about it, and I didn't like the idea of Wilson and I ruining somebody else's day. So I'm taking a little break from Metuchen for a little bit. On the way home from the evening's activities, I noticed I had another little issue with Wilson. But that, my friends, is a story I'll share with you next time. Keep cool, and I'll talk to you all soon.